Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Leilu Nishmas Mordche, live from Los Angeles in a hotel room with no one watching live. It's Erev Shabbos, just a few hours before Shabbos. It's basically deep into Shabbos in Eretz Yisrael and deep into Shabbos in New York. We have an amazing daf that's going to be discussing some of the most famous sugyas in Shas, but very briefly, each sugya just touching upon it. It's a daf you don't want to miss. We're talking about shlichos, about roiv, about kvios, mechza, even kinem, sugya of kinem, but great sugyas. Before we get into it, just read a couple of emails here. I might have to use two computers to see the emails and to read them. First one is by Mark Weinreb, Molandin, MDY Chevra Muncie, enjoying Eli Shir Thursday night with Gishmaka Food from the Flame, sponsored by Shloima Goldenberg. Love when the Olam gets together. I was disappointed that I couldn't make it to the Siyum in Miami, but glad that I got to ski with my kids, finish the Dorim, and start Nazir while on vacation. There is no vacation from learning. Enjoy your time in LA. Moshe Kinsbursky.
God, man, by side.
By Perry Moses learning the daf with Rebelli at LAX while waiting for his flight home to Detroit after being in Los Angeles for his father's yahrzeit. And then it says, rocking Rebelli level socks. I have to make a macha on that one. No. It's rocking the socks, but not on the same level. No. Can't exaggerate. Sometimes we just, here's Rabbi Isai, something that was very moving to me when I heard it. It could be it was personally for me because I was the one that spoke about the Kaddish thing, but just for this individual, Dov, to get up at a siyum, and has nothing to do with what he's saying, but he felt that the message was so important, very, very moving. Here we go.
And I look forward even more to sitting in Yossi's garage, cracking open a few bottles while we learn the daf and daven mincha, give each other a few digs and pokes. But it really became just a great vibe and a great feeling. And to me, that's what encompasses the daf. It's about the daf, it's about the Yomi, and it's about the chevra. And to me, you can't have one without the other. But I have to leave you with a message that connects all of them. And I got this from Eli Stefansky. It's something that perhaps we could all take away together. Something that we could all take on in addition to the daf. And that's just not to talk when someone's saying Kaddish in shul. It talks about being a realist. We can't just stop talking in shul. We got to take little baby steps. Right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one single step. So as members of the daf that are doing the Yomi and the chevra, perhaps together all of us can take upon ourselves that when someone's saying Kaddish in shul, we'll remain silent and give them the respect and the cover that they deserve. And perhaps together with this chevra, doing the daf and the Yomi and taking this on, we can see the coming of Mashiach from hair of Yemeinu.
Amen. Mazel tov, Mazel tov. Beautiful, beautiful. First, I want to thank you very much. I'm going to read it from another computer for making the effort to personally attend our local Miami community seal. Myself, my family, and 600 other attendees loved every second of it. It was amazing. It was an amazing event. We look forward to you doing it many times in the future, especially in the wintertime. I also want to thank you for the chance to attend in person. 2 of your shiurim you gave in Miami. And lastly, it was great being able to sit in front of you at the amazing Shabbos minyan that you gave 2 shout-outs in your shiur, maybe even more. You mentioned how impressed you were. By the way, yesterday, I also spoke about this minyan that he's speaking about. I was at a place called Mishmar. Gave a shiur there. It was beautiful. I should have shown a picture of that. Okay, Be'ez Hashem next time. There was over 200 people that attended the shiur in the Kola link. And they had in a side room something called a Mishmar. It's beautiful, and I think they should bring that concept throughout Klal Yisrael. A lot of people get together. They have a guitarist with a keyboard. They sing such hartzigen and gunim for hours. This chant, this l'chaim, this Torah. They make siyumim. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful matzav. So he says, it's a very long email. I'll just skip through a lot of it. Imagine how impressed you are by having such a large crowd and not being able to hear a pin drop. I think it's important for you to know that just like your shir, the success is amazing. Shul congregation, Yom and Tzvi, is due to the efforts and energy of one individual. That's not true. I'm going to stop making macha here as well. Our share is the efforts of many, many individuals. But okay, so over there, there's one individual who did not get the proper credit. His name is Dr. Nikki Sabo, and he was determined to make a shul where davening would be an uplifting experience every time you attend, and it would be with total dignity and absolutely no talking. This did not happen by accident or in a vacuum. Dr. Sabo single-handedly pays for the rent and for everything that takes place in shul, including the fantastic kiddush that he has every single week that you were able to see in person. He made the rules very clear, as you can see on the sign outside the shul. There's a sign, a huge sign, that everyone is welcome to join as long as they agree to 100% no talking. It's not only on Shabbos morning we has made such a contribution. The kitzer, the bottom line is that people that are talkers, they enjoy talking in shul, love coming to the shul and have no problem not talking. That's what I was so impressed. I've been in shuls where there's no talking, but everybody's frum and they're brought up like that. Here are people that are used to talking, but don't talk. On behalf of my son, myself, and your son, and the many hundreds of people who have benefited from his generosity, I think deserves a public shout out and thank you. So here it is. And now to my confession. We're talking about Yisrael next week. He was able to test all the other religions and the faiths in the world. He wasn't able to deter. I know where he's going with this. That the people of the Torah, all the authentic religion he wanted to be part of. I must confess that even though I'm a loyal MDY listener, one day I went online in the morning to listen to his share. It was to my great dismay that it had not been posted up yet. I had no choice but to start frantically checking out and listening to many other Daf Yomi shiurim. I heard that from many people. Scary. Who knows how many people we lost because of that? They are available online. After listening to a few minutes of each one, I now fully understand and recognize why your share is by far the absolute best and explains why your MDY family has grown exponentially. I took a peek at the daf this morning before I listened to your share and wondered, how are you going to possibly explain a talking cow? The closest I could come up with is a talking horse, Mr. Ed. Remember from my childhood, but your explanation, your artwork showing pulling the cow over the top. Pulling that cow was over the top and guided me safely through the daf. Taking on behalf of myself and more than many thousands was the dafim. David Gray, Yishkoyach David. What else do we have here? We got to get going. Oh, Rabbi said this is not so much an email as a Dvar Torah for this Shabbos. So take this out of the email section. This is the Dvar Torah for Shabbos, which I would like to give, but I'm on vacation. And here's a beautiful Dvar Torah from Moshe Lachman from Cedarhurst, New York. Moshe Lachman says beautifully, thank you for displaying your commitment to preparing Shurim while I'm vacationing in Shir. Actions speak louder than words. You truly inspire us to follow your derech. Shkaya. At the end of the parasha, we have a story of Amalek attacking Bnei Yisrael. In describing Amalek in Parashat Kisisei, the pasuk says, Asher karcha b'derech. Rashi gives three explanations of the word karcha. One pshat is the famous one. First, the cold. By attacking Bnei Yisrael, they cooled off all nations from fearing Bnei Yisrael. Perhaps you can say that Amalek cooled off Bnei Yisrael from losing their inspiration and avodas Hashem. The pasuk in our parasha says, "Vayomer Moshe Yeshua bechar lo ha'anoshim v'tzei lachem Amalek machar tomorrow." Amalek sought to cool off Bnei Yisrael by saying, if you feel inspired to do something good, start tomorrow. So they had a Melchama in Amalek, the Machar of Amalek. So inspiration would cool off. The Melchama with Amalek was on the Machar. You continuously inspired all of us to reach higher levels of Torah community, not talking during Kaddish, the significance of Nichum Avelim, learning for a Chayla, acts of MDY Chesed, Achtos, etc. Our lesson is, if you feel inspired, don't push it off to tomorrow. As the pasuk says, V'yivarchem b'yom hahu lemar yisimcha lekim, Bereshis 48:20, Moshe Lachman in Cedarhurst, New York, Yishkech Dvar Torah. If you have any beautiful Dvar Torahs for Shabbos, please send them in. I might be able to use them. Says the Gemara Daf Aleph Amud Beis, all the way in the bottom, 2 lines from the bottom. Omar Rabbi Yisrael bar Yosef, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Ha'omer l'shluchai tzei v'kadish li'isho stam. This is chart number. Oh, I have to do the sponsors. The Koil is sponsored by Anon Ymous from Lakewood. The Koil is sponsored by Support and Torah Strength our Bitachon. The Masechta is sponsored by Maaser. The Masechta is sponsored by Nishmas Chai Bas Yosef. The Paras HaChodesh is Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. The Paras HaChodesh is the second one. Shprintzy and Alan Gross. The yahrzeits of their father. Let me see it on the next one. Here we go. Shloima Zalman ben Yitzchak Aiyzik. I'll just explain real quickly. I have a program called OBS, which is very temperamental, and it takes up half my screen, so I can't read any of the wording that. So I'm using the other computer. Shloima Zalman ben Yitzchak Aiyzik and Leilu Nishmas ben Aiyzik ben Tzvi Hirsch HaKohen. The third sponsor of the month, the MDY family, Leilu Nishmas Baruch Helfgott, Zechroin Levracha ben ybl'c Mordche Shloima. I just got it earlier today, and I didn't put it in. I want to show the picture. I chap what's going on here. They explained it to me. This Rabbi Helfgott, who sent in emails, and I actually showed a video of the shir playing by his 2-year-old son's bed. Leilu, his 2-year-old son was nifter. So the MDY family, the tzaddikim that they are, whoever they are, you know who you are, get together. And when we have a tragedy like this, I don't know if it's the same people, but I know some of the people are involved now. They got together and they're doing a sponsorship. Leilu Nishmas Baruch, the young child Baruch Helfgott, ben ybl'c Mordche Shloima. Mordche Shloima should have an nechama. His wife should have an nechama. The whole mishpach should have an nechama. Klal Yisrael should have an nechama. Enough of these tzaras. Malka Grossman, Leilu Nishmas Baruch ben Mordche Shloima. The art of the month for completing for Shloima of Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. I also want to mention yesterday. I messed up and I said Leilu, I said Leilu Nishmas instead of a special happy anniversary, and I didn't realize it's for our dear friend Mark Ashkenazi. His friends put it in, so I was relieved to know that was Mark. I know that he'd be meichel me in honor of Mark and Yafa on their 27th anniversary today, which was yesterday. They should have many happy and healthy years together and have lots of nachas from all their children. Amen. Here we go. Says Rabbi Yochanan, top of ybl'c Amud Aleph. Say v'kadesh li isha stam. He made a little bit of a mistake. He says, go out, I'm desperate, I need to get married. Go be mekadesh any woman you find, tell me later who it is. I trust you, you have great taste, you're going to look into her, she's going to be perfect for me. As you see in chart 1, this is erusin. This is not nisuin, there's no chuppah. In those days, they would give a ring, and that was enough to be mekadesh her, where she becomes asur to the entire world. She becomes the yahrzeit. Now, this shliach that he sent, we have here we go. This is chart 1.2 and 1.3. He tells the guy, go be mekadesh me a wife. And he does. Or maybe he didn't, we don't know. The bottom line is that, should I do this? No, it's fine. Oh, we're still stuck on that thing over there. Where's Pshat? I see it and they don't. So let me just go back to, that's not good. So I could see it and Yosef cannot. Okay, so I'm just going to announce. Hopefully I remember to announce this thing. Beseder. So that was chart 1.3 and 1.4. Okay. Say v'kadesh li isha stam. Says the Gemara, also b'chol anashim sheba'olam, an amazing case. This man becomes asur to the entire world. Why? Chazaka shliach oisa shlichusai. We have a chazaka that the agent is going to do what he was asked to do. He's going to find a woman somewhere and be mekadesh her. And now we have no idea who this woman is. The problem is that most women have mothers, sisters, daughters, granddaughters, the 7 krovim. And by you getting married to somebody, you might be marrying the woman who he was mekadesh's daughter, sister, a krova, which is also to you. So what do? You know, somebody came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and asked him for a shidduch, a bracha. Chaim looked at him and said, your shidduch wasn't born yet. It turns out that he got married to a yahrzeits. she wasn't misguided yet. And a person who becomes a ger is like a tinok shenoilad, brand new baby. So Zechariah comes out that this person could marry a yahrzeits, as we see later. If you know for a fact that this woman doesn't have a daughter, so you could marry. Beautiful thing. It says in the Haggadah, Lavan bikesh lakar sakol. Lavan wanted to uproot Klal Yisrael. So some explain because he wanted to poison Eliezer. Avram Avinu told Eliezer, go be Mekadesh, a wife for my son. But if Eliezer would die, that's our sugya. Then we would have no idea who Eliezer was Mekadesh. Then Yitzchak wouldn't be able to marry anybody in the world because perhaps it's the sister of the woman that Eliezer was Mekadesh, and that's how Lavan bikesh lakar sakol. Now it's not 100% this pshat, I don't think. Because at the end of the day, he could have married a Kananis, because we know that Eliezer wouldn't have been Kadisher. He could have married a yahrzeits, married somebody that doesn't have a sister, etc., etc. But for the it's cute, but let's call it a cute shot. Says the Gemara, Eisvei Rishlakish Rabbi Shlakish asked Rabbi Yochanan, Cain stuma sheparcha goizel echad mehem la'aver oilam. When a person has to bring a set of birds, a cane, 2 birds, one oila, one chatas. Let's say a person is a zava. Even a woman who gives birth sometimes brings birds. She can't afford anything else. Now, as you see in the picture, in chart 2, he brought a chatas. He didn't bring a chatas and oila. He brought 2 birds, and we don't know which one is what. He didn't decide yet if the one on the right, the 2 white ones, the one on the right is a chatas, or the one on the left is a oila. We don't know. We go both ways. So the halacha is, one of them flew away into the world. So one of them flew away. Nachman Seltzer in his book, I have to ask Nachman about this, he says that Ravalis, the one who created Arachin, and he wrote that book. What's the name of the book? It's Incredible. I think it's Incredible. So he writes there, this Maaser, I don't know if it's Kimatoya, it sounds Kimatoya. The Ravalis found a parrot, a talking parrot, and it starts saying Boida'ani and Good Shabbos, Good Yontif, Happy Purim. And Ravalis, who wasn't Ravalis then, didn't know what it was, and he started looking into it, and that's how he started his journey of becoming religious. That's what he says in his book. Very interesting. Okay. I was thinking to myself when I read the story, in the book it says, and this one I was very inspired by, that Ravalis, when he became frum, he decided to do tshuva on all the stuff he stole when he wasn't religious. He even stole pavers from somebody's driveway, so he had to find the owner, and he had to go to the city. It took him 2 years. And I'm just curious if he ever returned this parrot. Hashavas Aveda, you gotta do Hashavas Aveda. Okay. So here you see in the chart, chatas hamesais, there's 5 animals that are chatas that must be left to die. They're very sad, but that's the fact. You can't shech them, you can't do anything. For instance, if the owner, after he designated an animal to be a chatas and he died, the animal dies. So now if you have these birds, and they're put to death. Now you put them in a room, you let them die. This bird that you have flew over there. Now you're left with 1 bird. You start off with 2 birds, 1 flew away. Or one of your 2 birds died. That's not a problem. Since you didn't designate any of the birds, you didn't say this one is the chatas, this one is the oila. You just bought 2 birds. So all you need to do is find a partner for the second bird. That's not a problem. What's the problem? Leilu, that was, by the way, chart 4. Now we're going back to chart 3. Leilu came mufareshes, but if he designated the bird on the right, let's say, to be a chatas, and the bird on the left to be an oila, and one of them flew away, and now you don't know which one flew away, ein lo takana. There's nothing you can do. Those are people on the outside. Don't worry about them. Why? Because you can't bring 2 oilers, you can't bring 2 chatas, you can't. What are you going to do? You don't know what flew away. Maybe the chatas flew away, maybe the oil flew away. And I should have had a chart for this. I forgot to put it in. The chatas and the oila, the way you do malika with your thumb, and then you take the blood, and one of them goes above the red. There's a red line, a chut sikra on the mizbeach. One, the chatas, the oila, I don't remember anymore. I'm confused between the bird and the flower. Let's say the oila goes above the red line, the chatas goes below the red line. Now, if I don't know what's what, I can't check it. I can't do malika to it. So I'm stuck. So, v'idu kemef reshes ein lo takana. There's nothing you can do about it. It says the Gemara, v'idu shar kinem ba'alma. Now, I just want to point something out. A very interesting thing that the Rosh says. Wait a minute. But when you had the 2 birds, you knew that the bird on the right was a chatas. But they flew around and they landed here, and you were able to pick it up and say, oh, this is the chatas. This is the oila. Otherwise, you can't bring it. So why is it if one flies away, then now all of a sudden you can't recognize it? So the Rosh says something very interesting. You know, sometimes when you have twins, identical twins, when they're standing next to each other, you could say, oh, that's Reuven and that's Shimon, because they look slightly different. But when you see one of them in the street, you get confused. Same thing with the birds. You see 2 pigeons. You don't know who's what exactly if you only have one. But if you have 2, then you could differentiate between the 2. Very interesting chap. I'll call upon him. So the Gemara asks, wait a minute, you're telling me that if this bird flies away, it's okay for the rest of the birds in the world. Asks Rish Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan, according to your theory, that this man is also in all women of the world, because he might bump in, he might marry the sister of the woman that was. So anytime you take a bird now out of a tree, anytime you catch a pigeon, maybe it's the pigeon that flew away. What do we do? Okay, so now we're going to talk, just for, don't get nervous, for a little bit about Roiv and the exception to the rule on Roiv. So in chart 5, Achri Rabim Lahatois, the pasuk tells us that anytime you have a majority, we go with the majority. Achri Rabim Lahatois. So most women in the world are mutter to this man. So he shouldn't have a problem. He should be able to marry any woman he wants. What's the exception to the rule? We have the famous concept called Tishu Chanuyos. If you have 9 stores that sell meat, and they all sell kosher meat, and you find, I always love this case, you find a piece of meat, a piece of juicy meat in the middle of the street, you're able to eat the piece of meat. Why? Called the parish Meruba parish. Oh, I wrote it in the chart, called the parish Meruba parish. So most of the meat that's on the sidewalk is going to come from the 9 stores that are kosher. The 1 store that is treif is a miot, is the minority. Majority is kosher. The exception to that rule is if you bought the meat inside a store, and later on you found out that one of the stores is non-kosher, and you don't remember which one you went to. So now you went into kavua, you went to something stationary. The store is stationary. Now the halacha of Achir Rabim, Tishu Chanuyos, is chart 6. So chart 5, Achir Rabim Lahatois, doesn't apply here because it's kavua, it's stationary. When you go into stationary, just chart 7, you go into a place that's surrounded, a house, a city, it's kavua, it's stationary. So anything that comes out of that becomes mechza al mechza, 50-50. So now, any woman this person marries, says the Gemara, since he was Mekadesh her, we're assuming he was Mekadesh, he gave her, the shliach gave her a ring inside her house, and the house is kavua, it's stationary. So now she loses her majority. All the women of the world lose the majority. They become 50-50. And on a 50-50% chance, you cannot marry any woman in the world because there's a 50% chance that she might be the sister of the woman that the agent was Mekadesh. Why? Because it's kavua, it's stationary. As the Gemara in chart 7, you see there's also Naida, a traveling house, beautiful antique piece. I'm talking about a woman who's stationary. And therefore, because she's stationary, she doesn't have a right. You're talking about birds. Birds are naid, flying around. Says the Gemara, maybe this woman was also transient. Isn't that the word? She was moving. She wasn't stationary in her house. This shliach agent found a woman in the marketplace and said, "Are you looking for a shidduch? I have a great shidduch for you." So she wasn't kavua, and if she wasn't kavua, she was moving through the marketplace. Now we go back to the Rav, the original Rav. There's a majority that most women in the world are mutter to this man. He should be able to marry anybody. Because at the end of the day, a woman goes back to her house. So she's more of a stationary thing, object, person. She's stationary. She's not like a bird who flies around from tree to tree. Gabi can, but a bird, mihadra. Does a bird ever stay stationary? I think it's good to see Taisus inside real quickly. Also, I have all the time in the world. Shabbos is only in a few minutes. As Taisus, a question that everybody's thinking about right now. That all women, forget about this person, all women of the world should be usher because we don't know who this agent was Mekadesh. And perhaps this woman is an Eishesish. When you go Mekadesh a woman, maybe she's the wife of Reuven, and we don't know that she's the wife of Reuven because the Shliach is Mekadesh her, and the Shliach dropped dead, and now she's an Eishesish. How can anybody marry her? Says Taisus Tam, that's not a problem because every woman could say, I never received Kedushin. The problem is, what if her father received Kedushin when she's a Ketana, has Taisus, and she doesn't know, so you might be being Kaddish now, Eishesish. Shloima, so Taisus says a big yisod in the Sugya. At the end of the day, you can marry this woman, midaraisa. Just Chachamim put a penalty on him that he can't marry anybody because you should never send somebody and say, just be mekadesh any woman because of these problems. That's the issue. Okay. There are 7 kroibas. So like Gemara says, if a woman you know for sure doesn't have any relatives at all, nebach girl, she doesn't have a daughter, she doesn't have a granddaughter, v'loy bas bain, and not the granddaughter from a son, v'loy yem, she doesn't have a mother, v'loy mem, she doesn't have a grandmother, v'loy achois, and not even a sister. So this nebach girl, and this is a beautiful thing, because sometimes being youth, what a person thinks is bad for them, she says, oh, I don't have a mother, I don't have a sister, I don't have anything. But that's what rescued her. That's what took her out of her issue, because now she has a great shidduch. She could marry all the men in the world that sent agents, and the agents died without telling them who they got engaged to. Which reminds me of a story. There was a Moroccan Jew that came from Morocco, and he couldn't speak a word of Hebrew. He came to Israel, and he was looking for a job. So he went to the whatever it's called, the job searching center. And he said, I'm Moroccan and I can't speak a word of Hebrew. Find me a job. They said, you can't read? Nothing. You can't write? No. Okay, so a few days later, they call him up. They said, we got a perfect job for you. We found you a job in the intelligence service. You'll be the one responsible for destroying very, very secretive documents. And we don't want the person destroying them to be able to read them. So we hired you. So sometimes a person's negative is actually a positive. Okay, says the Gemara. So look at this. This is beautiful. So here you see in chart 8, we have an agent, right? He sent, there's a sender and there's an agent to be Mekadesh. So I took the little piece. At the time when he appointed him to be a shliach, he appointed him, he says, you're a shliach. At that time, Lachluchas, let's go back just for a second, in chart 8, you see Lachluchas, that's the Kala, her name is Lachluchas. Lachluchas in chart 8 has a sister in chart 9 called Rachel. And she's married to a guy named Yossi from Muncie. According, says Rava, this is Rava's Yisoid, and the Gemara is gonna argue with him. Rava says, at the time that he appointed, the guy in the white kittel appointed the shliach, the chassid appointed the agent, Lachluchas had a sister. And because the agent, the shliach, Mario, couldn't be mekadesh the sister because she's already married to Yossi. So the sender, the chassid, never had in mind the sister. And then what happened? Look at chart 10. Yossi divorces his wife, and now she becomes available to get married to the sender. Says Rava, you can marry this woman. Why? Because he never had intent with this woman. He never thought about the achai. She wasn't included in his t'nai. Says the Gemara. Lachluchas had a sister, and she got divorced like in chart 10. That Rachel woman, the Yerushalmi lady, is mutter. She's muteres to the sender, to the chassid. Why? Because at the time that he sent his messenger, she was already married. He only made him a messenger to send a shliach to marry somebody that's available right now. But since she wasn't available, he never made her a shliach. All this to ask a question for our Mishnah, Tanan. So we're done with the Roy, we're done with all these. So you just touched upon them beautiful stuff. Tanan. Nazir. Check out chart 11. Let me just get, just in case Nazir does see this. Here we go. Chart 11. A guy goes in our Mishnah, right? So Rabbi Turjuman says, Hareini Nazir, I want to become a Nazir, va'alai legalech Nazir. And in addition to that, I want to pay for somebody's korbanos, another Nazir's korbanos. Comes the lit guy and he says, Va'ani, I also want to become a Nazir, and I also want to pay for somebody's korbanos. Says the Gemara, beautiful. The step 1 and step 2. First, Rabbi Turjuman said, I want to become a Nazir, and I'm going to pay for korbanos. At that point, at step 1, the guy on the left, Mr. Lit, he wasn't a Nazir. So how in the world could Rabbi Turjuman on the right buy korbanos for the guy on the left? He wasn't a Nazir at that point. Now let's look at the guy on the left. The guy on the left has no problem. The guy on the left says, Va'ani, I want to buy korbanos for Rabbi Turjuman. But Rabbi Turjuman is already a Nazir. It's perfect. Everything's great. The problem is Rabbi Turjuman. How does Rabbi Turjuman buy a korban for the lit guy when the lit guy wasn't even a Nazir at the time? You just told me that when a woman is not available to get married because she's married to somebody else, she's not including the t'nai. So very also, Rabbi Turjuman cannot include the lit guy in his t'nai. The Mishnah says, should I read it again? That's Rabbi Turjuman. The guy on the left, the lit guy. We'll call him David from California, let's say. And the guy says, I'm laughing because I saw David today. David, the surfer. And that's basically, he was in the video as California, Nachman sells this video. They use the lit guy on a surfboard. Okay, surf from LA. He says, I want to be like Rabbi Turgeman. And I'll also buy korbanos for another Nazir. So what does the Mishnah say? They're very smart. We showed the cartoon yesterday. They shave each other's off. In other words, they pay for each other's korbanos. If not, they just buy a korban for somebody else. Says the Gemara, if you start from step 2, he already has step 1 who's a Nazir. Great, he could buy him korbanos. But how does Rabbi Turgeman buy a korban for step 2? He doesn't have anybody to buy a korban for. Says the Gemara, we just turn to the Amud Beis. Who always encourages us to finish Shas? Latzlacha, cheer, and the members of the HBA Group and their families. Amen. So you have to say, the Pshat and Rabbi Turgeman is, if I'll ever find a Nazir. In other words, he doesn't care. His kavana, his mindset was, I'm going to buy a korban for anybody that's going to be a Nazir in the future. I don't care if he's a Nazir today. I want to buy a korban for a Nazir. Doesn't matter to me that today he's not a Nazir. So too, you have to explain by a woman too. This is what he told his agent. He told the shliach, if you find somebody that's migarsha, who's divorced, kadishli. So, let me just see what I wrote here. So the bottom line is, when it comes to Eishes Ish, if she's not royal right now, when it comes to shlichus, so this is a side like this. When it comes to shlichus, sending an agent, you have to send an agent to do something that's available at this moment, right now. So if she's a married woman, she's not available. She's not available. Right now she's not available. So I can't make you my agent to marry her to me, because she's not available. She's married to somebody else. But I could, says the Gemara, I could say that I want to make it chayvus. I want to obligate myself to buy somebody else a korban, even though that guy is not chayv a korban. Okay. Taisus says over here that there's no shliach, the davar shlei b'Leilu. Something that doesn't exist today, you can't make a shliach. So there's a big shiloh in the earlier achronim, arit, smag, different. Like today we tell a mashgiach in a restaurant, you're in charge of doing all the trumas and maasros. But how can we make him in charge of doing all the trumas and maasros? We could do that for today, but how could I assign him to do trumas and maasros for 3 months from now, when the fruit didn't even grow yet? It's davar shlei b'Leilu. I didn't even purchase the fruit. How could he be my shliach? That is the shaila that they ask. The Marit says that if you say specifically, you mefarish the davar shlei b'Leilu, you could. Some say that if you write it down in writing, there's not a problem. Some say that the whole trumas and maasros today is only the rabbanon, so that's why there is a shliach. But it's something to discuss, it's something to think about. Amri. So this is the new pshat, says the Gemara, pshat and Rav. I probably jumped it. I should have read the words first inside. But there's no shliach if you cannot do it right now. You can't marry the woman right now because there's no shliach for that. Something that you cannot do right now, you can't make a shliach. Ask the Gemara of a lie. So Shema, we learned a person tells his agent, I'm going on a road trip. A husband has the right to annul his wife's neder. If she makes a neder, the husband has the right to annul it. Can a husband appoint an agent, a shliach, to annul his wife's neder? He's going to be away. He's concerned. She's going to get mad at something. She's going to make a neder, and that's it. She's going to have a neder for the rest of her life. Like this, you can appoint somebody to undo it. So, says the Gemara, Yochel you mafarim, you would think it would have worked. It says the word her husband twice. Isha yikimeno v'isha yifreno. Instead of just saying Isha yikimeno v'yifreno, it says the word Isha twice. So what do you see from the second word? That only a husband could annul it. But I need a special pasuk to tell me that. Divri Rabbi Yoshia, let's remember Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia says there's a special limud, a special pasuk that says that only a husband could annul nidarim. He cannot appoint a shliach. Not true. I could appoint a shliach for anything. I could appoint a shliach to make a bris milah on my son. I could appoint whatever it is. So why can't I appoint a shliach to annul my wife's nidarim? So the Gemara makes a nice cheshbon, very simple one. Sorry. It's only because the Torah says a special pasuk that only a husband can annul. But without that pasuk, I would say shliach shalom k'mais according to Rabbi Yoshia. But the husband himself, forget about his messenger. The husband himself. Tanya, we learned in a brayso. If a person says future nedarim will become kayam, they'll be affirmed. You can't affirm something that was never said. You can't say that what you are going to say tomorrow, I completely agree to and I want it to happen. But what if he says, Harei mufarim, I want to annul it? In other words, whatever comes out of your mouth, I'm just going to be mevatel right now. We have a machlokes. Rabbi Lezer says it works. It doesn't work. Says Gemara, Ki Omar Rabbi Yoshia al diba the Rabbana. So now the Gemara says that the reason why, in other words, you cannot appoint a shliach for your wife's nidarim. He holds like Rabbanan. The Rosh explains. Why would I think that he holds like Rabbanan? Because according to Rabbi Eliezer, this is based on what the Gemara is going to answer at the end. According to Rabbi Eliezer, why do I need a shliach? Let the husband just say today, whatever you are going to say in the future is annulled. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that works. So why should he go through the trouble? Hello, do me a favor. If my wife ever makes a neder, annul it. Just don't make the phone call. Just say, if you ever make a neder, I'm annulling it right now. That's the raya that he doesn't hold like Rabbi Eliezer. He holds like Chachamim. I'll leave it there. The husband doesn't have the right to annul, and that's why he pointed a shliach. And so I need a shliach. But the Torah says the shliach doesn't work. But without the Torah saying the shliach doesn't work, it would work. Why? Sorry. And that's a question on Rava. Rava says that since it's not available right now, you cannot annul. It's not available. Just like he said by Kiddushin, she's not available. This neder is not available. But you see, not like that. You see that even though the neder is not available right now, but when it happens, I'm making you shliach that when it happens, it should be good. So, by a woman who was married and got divorced, it says the Gemara, says the Gemara, no. Who told you that this is going according to Chachamim? Who say you can't be mefer? No, it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer. It says you could be mefer. A husband could be mefer nedarim that are going to happen in the future. So what was your question? Your question is, how can it be Rabbi Eliezer? If it's Rabbi Eliezer, why does he need an agent? Let him just say it now. Let him do it himself. He He has a reason why he got an agent. He's concerned right now. He's packing. He's not gonna remember. So he tells his friend, "You do it." He's gonna forget. He's gonna be mad. He's gonna be busy. Okay. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Brand new sugya. Leilu Nishmas Rameir Yechiel ben Revavro. Harei alai legaleach chatzi nazir. Here you see on chart 12, a person says, "I want to shave a half a nazir." Well, it's not literally. It means I want to buy half the korbanos of a nazir. So a nazir, when he's done with his process of nazirus, let's say he's a nazir for 30 days. After 30 days, he shaves his head. He brings 3 korbanos. Chatzoy and Shloima. I don't know how much. Let's say it costs $1,500. So I'll participate in $750. I want to do half of any nazir. I want to be part of his mitzvah. Right? There's people that participate in supporting Torah, supporting a kahel. I want to support a nazir. And his friend heard it. Va'ani. I also want to be part of this. Va'ani. I want to buy half the korbanos. Says the Mishnah, Rameir says no, each one has to bring all the korbanos. There's such things that each one could bring half. Well, what's interesting is that the machlokes is, what do we understand from the words chatzi nazir? Is chatzi nazir half of his korbanos, or it's all the korbanos? Then the question is, why do I need a friend? Why do I need a friend to say va'ani and I want to be like him? How does that help the question? The question is, when a person says half of korbanos, does he mean, do we get him to pay all of it or half of it? Nothing to do with the friend. Okay, so they explain that I would think that the friend is just coming to, what the friend meant is to say, I want to add the other half that you're not paying, I want to pay. That makes a lot of sense. Somebody hears his friend saying, I want to pay for half of the nazir's korbanos. The friend over here, he says, you know what, I feel bad for the nazir. Let me help out. Let me pay the other half. Okay. Kumash on that. Says Gemara, Omarava, this is chart 13. Let me just say Balpeh real quickly. If a person says, Chatzi korbanos nazir, I want to bring half the korbanos of a nazir, no machlokes. Everybody agrees that he brings half the korbanos. Green. Everybody agrees it's okay. But if a person says korbanos chatzi nazir, he wants to bring, there's no such thing as a half a nazir. There's half a korbanos, but not a half a nazir. So what he's saying is nothing garnished, red, nothing. Machlokes is the blue. He says the lashon of our Mishnah, harei olai legaleach chatzi nazir. Let's see inside. Omar Rav, we're just going until the Mishnah. Omar Rav kol moedim kol eichad omar chatzi korbanos nazir olai. If he says that, chatzi korban he brings half a korban. Korban is chatzi nazir alai, but if he says, I want to bring the korban of a half a nazir, kuli korban b'yalei suya, because those things that have a korban, or half a nazir, so have to bring all the korbanos. My taima, the leiashkechon izurus lepalga, those things that have an izurus. V'chi pligi, and where's the machlokes? V'lishna vasnisim pligi, when he says, harei olei galeach chatzi nazir. Rebbe Sovak, even though harei olei Ichayiv kulei akuli korban azirus. Meir says, since he says harei olai, so remember here, chart 14. We had this machlokes earlier on. When a person says 2 words, that this animal should be instead of a shlamim and an oila, it's called tamura. So Meir holds tfois lashon achron. You take his last statement. Rebbe says, so if you say, tfois lashon rishon, you take his first words, tfois lashon rishon. What does that mean? When in our case, he said, let's go back to chart 13, harei olai, stop. That's lashon rishon. You said, harei olai legaleach, you're going to bring korbanos? So you bring korbanos. Now, maybe you had charata, so you said chatzi nazir. As you're talking, you want to take it back. That's too late, says Rameir. You already said harei olai legaleach. You're going to buy korbanos for a nazir. Even though I realize kulei korban naziros v'chiko amar chatzin naziros lavko kamina. That's from me. Rabbanan Sabri, Rabbanan say, Neder upesach imoyhu. He made a neder, and he said also, he continued to say chatzin nazir to get out of the neder, and that's the machlokes Rameir and Rabbanan. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and if you're in Los Angeles, have a wonderful Shabbos. We'll see you tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem.